Don't miss the latest installment of the Kharadron Overlords for Age of Sigmar. Spiking bits. What's up, Hobby Maniacs? Rob Baer. Checking in today, again, bringing you the fantastic releases for the Kharadron Overlords. This is, I don't even know anymore. I can't remember a time when they weren't putting out the Sky Dwarfs. I think this is the second to the last release, and coming out next week is the Sky Wardens and the final character. So we're almost there. But this release is probably one of the most exciting because we finally get the Arcanaut Ironclad, the big daddy that we've been waiting for so long, the Etheric Navigator, and Brock Grunnison, aka the man himself from Dune, aka allegedly. This is completely different. This is Age of Sigmar, right? Anyways, so 3 great kits coming our way from Games Workshop this week. You got the $115 US Ironclad. I think the Etheric Navigator is $25, and this bad boy right here is $40 US. So let's break them down here real quick for you because I know everybody is super excited to be out gaming and doing all sorts of stuff this weekend for the new movies. And of course, it was just May the 4th. So I'm sure there's a lot going on. I won't keep you. So here he is, the Etheric Navigator. We'll go over his rules here in a sec, but basically, he is just a couple of pieces right here, no big deal, super easy to assemble. He does have a separate head, so you could switch it out with some of the other heads that are coming out with the different dwarfs. If you happen to have an extra one, it seems like they come with just the right amount of heads in their Arcanaut Company kit. Now, maybe the Thunderers, I forget if they had an extra one or not. I know they don't really have a lot of extra guns unless you're going with the normal etheric ones. So here's the sprue itself, very simple. Oh, let's zoom in a little bit for you. It's the 1-part clam that we've seen in the past. Very simple stuff here, nothing too out of the ordinary. What I do like about it is semi 3-dimensional because you have these undercuts and these overcuts here. So it's going to appear to be a little bit more bulkier and a little bit more level of detail in it because of that 3-dimensional quality to it. And it's got that kind of like the whimsical staff kind of type deal right there. So you can kind of see it definitely appears to be more substantial to it than just a normal like kind of one sprue type deal, which is nice for sure right there. And then you can see the separate head, all the doodads back here on the Ghostbuster Proton pack. And then of course, he's got his head and all of his weapons and everything like that. Now he does come on the 32mm base that we've seen in the past for these guys, which really isn't that big of a surprise to be quite honest. I mean, rules wise, I'm not sure. I'm not sure he's worth taking. I think he's 100 points if I am not mistaken, to be quite honest here. Let's see, Etheric Navigator. Yep, he is 100 points right there. Now, what he brings to the table is the ability to move your models or your sky vessels around the table just a little bit faster. He has average stat lines. I mean, 5 wounds is good, 7 bravery is good. He's not, he's not no cream puff, that's for sure. A couple attacks, hits average. He's decent, is what I'm saying. And if your build needs the speed, so to speak, or you at least need to include one of these on the table to get that extra boost, to get across the table, to get those extra rolls for the Navigator ability, then he's probably the way to go. But I'm not sure that that's how this army is going to go. So I'm kind of questioning his effectiveness when you have things like the Aether Chemist or the Ender Master, which I think is kind of your more utilitarian go-to for this army here. And then next up is Brock Grunnison, the Lord Magnate of Bracknar. Of course, that is the standard kind of canon lore sky fort of the Kharadron Overlords. You can see he's got the Magnate's Charter, aka the Magna Carta, I guess, so to speak, Aethematic Saw, which does the Lord's work in combat, and the Grungston's Boast. Now remember, in the fluff, he actually has little cannons in his beard right there, because why not, right? Oh, it's so good. Now he is a 2-sprue kit, and he does have, I guess this is how they cast it, like this is, you get 3 of these to a sprue. I guess that's how they do, I don't know. I thought it was kind of peculiar, but I guess it kind of makes sense. Comes with the 50mm round, very similar to what we saw first originally in 40K with the Centurions. So let's take a look at his instructions here. So it is a rather larger kit. He is a $40 kit, which we've seen in the past, stuff like Aramon and stuff like Karn Betrayer over on the 40K side. end up being that much, which is, kind of makes sense. He's got a lot of pieces to this guy here, which definitely in the end, you know, he basically is a man with a exosuit which hovers using the Endrin kind of propulsion, lighter than air, metal gas technology, I guess we'll go with that. And he's got the gun and the Aether Saw right there as well, and then there's all the hollow effects and things, and then the backpack and all the wiring and everything's going to add to that three-dimensional effect, which is really cool, and the styling is really neat and definitely keeps to the whole overall effect of the Kharadron Overlords themselves. And it's got two little kind of side propulsion pods, and then a cannon up there, and then you've got your thrust vectoring wings kind of type deal. Now, as far as rules go, I want to say it's 330 points. Let me fact check that for you. I think overall he's a little expensive unless you build your army around him. He is 300 points. Unless you build your army around him, I feel like he's a little expensive to take. So if you are taking him, you are going to want to use him to his utmost ability. He has the Hitcher ability, so he's going to be able to latch on to those transport vessels if you need be and not take up transport capacity there. He also has the automatic Aether Saw. You could roll a dice. As long as you don't roll a 1, your damage counts as 3 right off the bat. So he's going to be doing the ripping and the tearing once he gets into combat there. That is the supercharged harness ability. Of course, he is the champion of Baer, so he can reroll to hit and to wound rolls of 1 if those attacks are directed against heroes or monsters. So he is going to be your Billy Badass. You're going to want to direct him against those big baddies out there. Now he does have the Grungston's Boast, which is pretty devastating for shooting at 18-inch range, and along with the Magnite Charter, which is 3s to hit, 3s to wound, neg 1 rend, 1 damage, and then of course the Aether Blasters, which is pretty standard, and 2 attacks at 9-inch range, 3s, 4s. Those are what the Thunderers are armed with, I believe, as their stock weapon. So he's got a lot of guns, he's got a lot of abilities. He can fly, moves 12, you know, he's got the Hitcher ability that we talked about, the high Hitcher right there. Command ability wise, let's see, friendly units within 18 inches can charge even if they ran in the same turn. So again, you know, if you want to combo him with some Etheric Navigators and you're going for a charge build, kind of like a move quick kind of build, he might be the way to go. He's gonna put you in a specific army build, but he in and of himself is a little bit of a badass. 8 wounds, 8 bravery, 3 up save, which is pretty solid. And remember, if you got Arcanaut companies laying around, you can divert some of those wounds over to them as well. So keep a lot of these overlapping combos in mind. That's basically how the army works. For the model itself, here's the first 3 right here, and you can see a lot of cool components. There's his little dwarven mustache and top hat, and then you've got his guns, the mandate, the thrust vectoring, little rudder kind of things, part of his servo harness. He is kind of small, to be quite honest, and then the little flight pods right there, and then the big Edrin sails up top, some part of his armor plating right there, a lot of other pieces here. There's the Aethermatic Saw, his little landing skid kind of things, and then here's the front and back of his torso, which you can see right there. So very cool looking model. I mean, there's no shortage of awesomeness inside this tiny little package, but that being said, he is $40, and he is going to put you probably into a specific army build for the Kharadron Overlords themselves. Next up, let's take a look at the Cant Ironclad. And last but certainly not least is the Cant Ironclad. This is a $115 behemoth of sorts for the Kharadron Overlords. This is the ginormous kit. It's on the Night Titan base, and you get all this craziness. It actually looks like it has 5 crewmen in this thing. So it basically has a squad of men inside it on its own, and it comes with its own little Etheric Navigator as well, which, I mean, technically is a $25 value, as you just saw, right? So that's kind of cool, and it's got 2 different options for the guns right there, and of course the Aethershot Carbines on the side, and Endrin Rigger on the side as well, which is also another, technically, another character model. So you're just money in the bank with this kit right here. All day, every day on that. It is a ginormous 3-sprue kit, which you're about to see here. It's got a luxurious full color manual, which will really help out a lot there, and 3, count them, 3 super ridiculously huge sprues. And then there's the Night Titan base itself, and the brand new super big flight stand for the sky vessels themselves. So we're not going to worry about this part quite yet. Let's take a look at the manual and talk about how this bad boy goes together, because it is quite the undertaking. This is just as enormous as, you know, putting together like a Lord of Change or a Night Titan. Generally, on average, it takes, if you're air quotes a professional modeler, about 3 to 4 hours to put a Night Titan together, and that's not counting magnetizing it or anything like that. That's just clipping it off the sprue, putting it together, paying attention to your mold lines, your seam lines, trimming everything down, making sure everything fits, you know, and locking it in. Generally 3 to 4 hours. So I could definitely see this being about the same amount of time, just because the parts and just the attention to detail that they have included in here. So you can see the superstructure starts with this kind of submarine kind of deck right here that has both some bottom, dorsal, and ventral top kind of components. And then you're going to be able to put on the moving parts as well. It's definitely advises not to glue them down. And there's a little brace to actually put in to hold in the cannons themselves, the Aethershot cannons or carbines, I forget what they're called, that actually stick out on both the port and starboard sides there. And then you've got your propulsion screws and lots more stuff here that it all goes together in a simple assembly. There's basically three big pieces that you build off of right there. And once you get your halves together, you can start adding more and more parts that actually move as well. You've got this crazy looking rudder back here as well. You got kind of like a keel kind of type deal, very similar to a sailboat. If you're not familiar with nautical I guess vessels, a sailboat actually has a large keel that extends down to actually kind of try to anchor it in place, and that's kind of what tacking is called. If you've ever heard of the term tacking, you basically set your sails to kind of get with the wind and kind of go into it's a whole thing. Trust me, sailing is literally a sport in and of itself. But that's what that definitely reminds me of there. And then you got your control rudders, your boarding planks and things like that, and then your vents and everything in the front here, and a whole lot more going into it. You got all sorts of drills, doodads, all sorts of stuff I don't even recognize. I think they just made up, but I think it looks great. And then you've got the turret assemblies here, and there's 3 different ways you can make it: the Aethermatic Volley Cannon, the Great Skyhook, or the Great Sky Cannon itself. Right there, 3 different ways. And from the appearances, it looks like they use the same barrel here, but you can put different ends on it, and this is a separate barrel, so you might be able to switch between those 2, but not all 3, because you're using the same barrel right there. It is what it is, right? And then over here, it's got the assemblies all going in. You've got your island house right here, and of course your front cannon. Now, battleships do exist. If you read the book, they do have some battleships. They're not as prevalent, but some of the skyports maintain several of them for readiness, and if things happen to pop off. And here's all the engine sacks, the lighter than air gas metal of magical properties, and then all of that kind of goes together to form the ship itself. And then the bomb racks and all of the crewmans that go onto there are in the back. Like I said, there's 5 different crewmans, and 2 of them are technically $25 kits in their own right. So this kit seems to be money in the bank all day, every day right there. And top it all off with the anchor, some of the support structures right there, and boom, there you go. And you've even got little tool crates and planks and all sorts of things. Now, as far as the rules go, it probably is a must-have to have at least one of these in your list. You could theoretically take multiples. I think they're 380 or 280 for this bad boy. It is expensive points-wise. The Arcanaut frigate is 280. It is 440. I was way off the mark there. This is 440 points for an 8-inch move, 18 wound, 4 up save, 7 bravery. Now, there is possibility to make builds of this that will be very hard to kill, just because you get free wounds back, you get D3 wounds back, you get all sort of regaining wound mechanics that actually can come into play depending on how you equip the crew and what you put around this bad boy, or what you sky hitch to it. Specific rules on embarking, abilities that work, that don't work. When you bring it in, if you do happen to deep strike it in, or you just place it from reserves within 9 inches, which technically isn't deep strike, but you know what I mean there. There are specific rules about how you can get out and what you can do and how you can proceed with all of that. There's also some commands, kind of very similar to Imperial Guard, that you can do to get extra, range, extra shooting, reroll hits at once, so like foe preferred enemy kind of type deal, bomb racks for when you actually do get assaulted. There's all sorts of stuff on here. Like I said, I think it's a must-have, at least one per list for most conventional lists that are out there. So don't hesitate. Probably pick one of these bad boys up. Its capacity, I think it's 20 or 25. I forget. It is 20. It is 20, but you can go up to 25. But then you lose a point of movement for each extra dude you put in there. And there's ways to make this faster as well, using the navigators and some other command benefits out there as well. Now let's jump over to the model itself. So the first up is this ginormous sprue, and this is a full-size sprue, so you can tell this is as big as some kits out there. Like, this is literally as big as, I don't know, what would be a good comparison for that? Well, I guess you could say maybe a land speeder-ish. Let me look over in my case and try to make a fair comparison. So this is easily a dreadnought base right there. That's easily 60 millimeters. Here's a Chaos Space Marine, just to give you an idea of exactly how big this is. There's the port, or the hatch right here. So that definitely gives you an idea of just how ridiculously big this kit is. Here is the other one, and now this has a lot of the supports, some of the rigging masts. Looks like the Aethermatic cannon that goes up in the front, some of the hoses and doodads and things. Over here you've got the top, the main deck, some of your crew members, some of your bombs, and all the parts for the crew themselves. Over here some of the struts and the ladders and things like that in the big rudder that goes in the back. Now, like I said, this is probably the size of a Sakaran battle tank. I would say it's definitely bigger than a Rhino, but smaller than a Land Raider, but it is still quite ginormous in size itself, as you can tell by my volunteer Chaos Space Marine right there. And then last but surely not least is the probably the piece that brings the actual size home. This is a whole sprue, and you can tell from right there, this is definitely bigger than a Rhino, but probably smaller than a Land Raider, or pretty close in size to a Land Raider, to be quite honest. Now you've got a lot of the screw props right here, some of the island house and all the parts that reach up to the Endron gas sacks, and some of the navigator tools and different things right there. I don't even know, just looking at some portholes and things. Here's some of the supports that go on the inside to brace the Aether Shot cannons into place, but to tell you the truth, I didn't even see the Aether Shot cannons on the other. They must be like, is that them? I can't really tell. It looks like everything is like crazy in this kit. I do not see them. Huh, that's interesting. Now I'm curious. I do not. I see these parts here, but I thought these would be the shafts for the main cannon up front, because there's the Aethermatic. And is it over here? Huh. Maybe it's some sort of assembly that I'm just not seeing right off the top of my head there, but keep your eyes peeled for that one. Hopefully they are in here. I am not seeing it. Well, I seriously doubt they'd make a mistake like that. I'm sure it's on here somewhere, we're just not seeing it. Could be right in front of us and would have bit us by now. But there you go, you definitely get an idea. All of this is hollow on the inside, so theoretically I suppose you could rig it up to have some LEDs, and it looks like this area right here is recessed, so you're going to have a little bit of a kind of like a bulkhead that comes up on each side when you put the main deck into it. But from all appearances, below deck here is going to be completely closed off once you seal up the model, so just kind of keep that in mind. And then of course the Night Titan base itself, which you can tell right there is definitely what you put a Night Titan on. That is a ginormous base, so this is going to be quite a massive ship once you get it together. Not quite as massive as a lot of people thought these were going to be, but it's still going to be impressive nonetheless, I assure you. I haven't seen one in person, but I can definitely tell just by looking at it, this thing is probably going to be just as tall as a Night Titan, if not a Cerastus pattern Night Titan there. So pretty cool kit. Like I said, we just went over the rules, so not much more else to talk about. We spent a lot of time talking about all three of these here. Now, if you like our video features here on YouTube, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you can be the first to know when we post new videos. We do about 40 to 45 videos a month currently here on this channel, and you can also support us over on Patreon to get a monthly shipment of miniatures delivered to your door just for supporting what we do here on our video features, and also on spikybits.com, and head on over to the longwar.net. That's the home of the battle reports for exclusive content, early access videos, and more. Become a veteran of the Long War today.